All right. Good evening, everyone. It is so great to see so many of you here tonight. And it's wonderful to be introducing our special guest, Sam. Make him feel welcome. Now, the plan for tonight is I'm going to introduce Sam, and then he's off, as in, like, off and running, not leaving, but we're going to be... Which is exciting. Our vision here is to see a Northern Beaches that knows Jesus. There are 250,000 people in our neighbourhood in the Northern Beaches who, most of whom don't know Jesus, most of whom are lost and are facing an eternity without God, which is really scary to think about. But God has put us here on a mission. He's given us neighbours, He's given us circles, He's given us networks of people that we know, and He wants us to share Jesus with them. That, as we all know, that's also can be quite tricky, can't it? And so that's what tonight is about, is Sam's going to encourage us and teach us and train us in how to do that better. So Sam, first a little bit about you.
Sure.
Well, tell us a bit about you.
All right, so in case you're wondering, yes, I was born in Hong Kong, but my parents moved to Australia when I was just a 6-month baby. We had 2 years in Darwin, 6 years in Adelaide, and then for the rest of my life, mainly Sydney. We began in Campbelltown, then Lumiere, then Minnow, so that's one station at a time on the Western Suburbs line. These days I'm married, I've got 3 boys. Toby, we named after dog names because Sam has been a top 10 dog name for the last 50 years. The number 1 dog name back then was Jack, but we couldn't call him Jackie Chan. And the others, don't worry about it. Well, the last one we named Jonty. We wanted jock names. So we looked at the surfing names, like Jai, Kai, Wayne, but they're the names of all the kids who always get in trouble at school. So we went with Jonty instead.
And did he live up to his jock?
He is a jock, yeah. He's made Swans Academy. He reps Sydney East for AFL. He plays cricket. He loves it.
Yeah. Now, you clearly have a heart and a passion to talk about Jesus, to make Jesus known. When did you kind of realise, and why, when did you realise that was your passion, and why do you have it?
I think because I grew up in a Christian family and it was just infectious. I remember my parents were always inviting neighbours over, always having dinner with them, always inviting them to go to church, and they'd become Christians. And I thought, hey, this is normal. This is just what you're meant to do. And also, they had a big ministry to overseas international university students back then. They would invite them back to their place. Hospitality, big lunches on Sunday, invite them to church, and just seeing lots and lots of people becoming Christians through my parents' ministry. So I thought, hey, this is great. Just it was in the DNA of every Christian to just want to tell friends and family about Jesus.
Do you have a particular conversation or evangelism attempt that stuck with you that you wish you could go back and do differently?
I can't think of any off the top of the head, but maybe they'll come up in Q&A time and during the seminar.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure there's a disaster story in there somewhere that you go, man, I wish I could do that differently. So how about I pray, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for Sam. Lord, thank you for the wonderful gifts that you've given him and the passion to see people know you. We pray that you'll help work in our hearts tonight, work in our hearts and our heads to have that passion to see you known and to be equipped and have the skills to know how better to do that. We pray all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Maybe you also need to know that what I do for work, I work for City Bible Forum, so there I get to tell people about Jesus, also network Christians with each other at work to help them tell their friends about Jesus. I also part-time as a medical doctor, so I just came from the hospitals today, came from Lakeview, which is near Castle Hill, Bella Vista. I work as a surgical assistant. You're wondering, what is a surgical assistant? Well, you know when you go for an operation, you get 3 bills from the doctors. First bill is from the surgeon, fair enough, they operated. Second bill from the anaesthetist, fair enough, they kept me alive. Who's this bozo sending me a 3rd bill? That is me, the surgical assistant. So my most important job is to come up to you just before the operation and say, hi, my name's Sam, I'm the surgical assistant, and you'll be getting a bill from me in 2 weeks' time. And that's the last thing you hear as you drift off to sleep. So anyway, that's what I do. I work 1 or 2 days a week as a surgical assistant. It's my job to hold your leg during the operation. You know, the nurses, they look at the surgeon and think, okay, I can see how that takes 5 years of med school. They look at the anaesthetist keeping you alive. I can see how that takes 5 years of med school. They look at me holding your leg and think, how does that take 5 years of med school? But I've got the most important job because, you know, when we operate on you, we're so worried we're going to operate on the wrong side. We're forever asking you, which leg, which leg, which leg? And you're always having to say, this one, this one, this one. But then they put you to sleep. And it all comes down to which leg I pick up first. And I wasn't there for any of those conversations. And it's a 50-50. We get it right half the time. And if we do the wrong side, we throw the other one in for free. So it's all good. So if you're wondering, I'm actually older than I look. I was old enough to be at Billy Graham's last crusade in 1979 at Randwick Racecourse. I went there as a high school student, and Billy was Billy, you know, the 20-minute Bible talk. And then he says, if you believe, pray the prayer, come down the front. The choir gets up, sings Just As I Am over and over again. And Billy says, come down the front because the buses will wait. And at that moment we think, that's so Billy. I love that. But think about it. The buses will wait. That means the non-believer who came that night came on a church bus. The non-believer back then was a churched non-believer. And I thought, you know what? I remember going to a little Baptist church in Campbelltown, and in my Sunday school class, most of them were non-believers from non-believing parents. In my church soccer team, most were non-believers from non-believing parents. Friday night youth group, most of them were non-believers with non-believing parents. So most non-believers back then were churched non-believers. But non-believers today are not churched non-believers. So how can we tell them about Jesus? That's what we're looking at tonight. And I remember Rico Tice, a UK evangelist, he sums it up this way. He says there have been 3 phases of evangelism in recent Western history. He said we had the Billy Graham phase, where Billy's just basically saying, come on, you've heard it before. Don't you think it's time? Believe what you've already heard. But then the next phase was what we call the defeater belief phase. The non-believer knows what we believe, but they just can't believe because things block their belief. They can't trust the Bible. What about other religions? The problem of suffering. So then what we do is we remove those defeater beliefs and they believe what we believe. But now we're in the third and most recent phase of evangelism where the non-believer doesn't know what we believe. They don't care what we believe. And deep down they're worried that what we believe is bad, evil, and wrong. So they'd rather not even know what we believe. So we're in a very different phase of evangelism. And Tim Keller from New York says, we've never been here before. It's like a blank slate. Because whatever worked in pre-Christendom with the Greeks and the Romans, whatever worked in Christendom with church non-believers is not going to work so well now. So we're all here tonight. It's a Thursday night, it's packed because we all have the same itch. How can we tell our friends and family about Jesus now in this new phase of Western history? So thanks for coming. So I'm going to give a 45-minute talk. That gives us plenty of time for question and answer. And in this 45 minutes, I'm going to share a handful of tips that have been working for my wife and me. And I hope they also work for you. I'm not saying they're the only way of doing it. I'm not saying they're the best way of doing it. And I'm not saying if you don't do it this way, you're doing it the wrong way. I'm just saying, hey, these are some things that have worked for my wife and me, and hopefully they'll also work for you. So tip number 1. How can we tell our friends and family about Jesus? First tip is we need to merge our universes of friends. The other thing I'm aware of is I've given this talk in many places, even on YouTube, in many places. So chances are, if you've heard this talk before, you're going to hear a lot of same stuff, but I'll rejig it, make sure there's some fresh stuff. But if you've heard some of these jokes before, laugh as if it's your very first time, for the sake of those who haven't. All right, tip number 1, we need to merge our universes of friends. Well, what do I mean by this? I want you to imagine if I say, hey, you won't believe just what happened last night. My wife and I were kicking back in Croydon Park, inner west, on the other side of the Harbour Bridge, and a UFO landed in our backyard. And a little green man got out, and he asked us to go in his UFO, and we did. And he took us to his home planet, Jupiter. We got out, he showed us around. We had a meal with his friends and family. Afterwards, we jumped back in the UFO, and And because of the space-time continuum, we went through a time portal and only 1 second of Earth time went by and we landed back in our backyard. Who here believes me? All right, it's a minority belief. In a room full of 200 people, it's a minority belief. I'll tell you another story. 2,000 years ago, God sent us his son, Jesus, born of a virgin, 100% God, 100% human at the same time. While he was alive, he raised a dead girl back to life. He gave a man born blind his sight again. More than that, he died on a cross. More than that, he rose from the dead 3 days later from the grave. If you believe this, God will wash away all your sin, guilt, and shame. More than that, Jesus is in heaven right now, and one day in the future, depending on which denomination you belong to, he will come again and set up a physical kingdom here on earth. And at that moment, your body will rise from its grave and be reunited with your soul. Who here believes me? Whoa, so it's a majority belief. But at this moment, we think, whoa, why am I happy to believe the Jesus story but not the Jupiter story? Because let's face it, they're both pretty wacky. And let's be honest, the Jupiter story is way more believable than the Jesus story. So why do you believe the Jesus story but not the Jupiter story? Because of what sociologists and psychologists call plausibility structures. So as I'm telling you my story, and as you're listening to my story, you have these pre-programmed, predetermined plausibility structures that prejudge my story as bum, bum, unbelievable, or bling, believable. So when I tell you that story about the UFO, and I say a UFO landed in my backyard last night, your plausibility structures are going bum, 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 unbelievable. We went to the planet Jupiter, bum, 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 unbelievable. We went through a time portal, only 1 second of Earth time went by, bum, 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 unbelievable. But when I tell you the Jesus story, your predetermined, pre-programmed plausibility structures are prejudging my story as bling, green light, believable. Jesus, born of a virgin, bling, believable. Dies on a cross and rises from the dead 3 days later, bling, believable. One day you will rise from the dead, bling, 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 believable, believable, believable. You think, whoa, well, where do I get these plausibility structures from? Well, we get them from three main sources. We get them from our community. So friends and family that we know and trust. We get them from our experiences. And we get them from facts, evidence, and data. As I tell you the Jupiter story, none of us have friends and family who believe in UFOs. None of us have had a personal experience of UFOs. And none of us believe there are enough facts, evidence, and data to support my story. But when I tell you the Jesus story, most of us have friends and family who also believe in Jesus. Most of us have had a personal experience of Jesus. And most of us believe there are enough facts, evidence, and data to support my story. And out of these three, which one is the most powerful for determining belief? We may want it to be facts, evidence, and data. We may think it should be facts, evidence, and data. Otherwise, you're wrong. But out of these three, this is the least important one in determining belief. Because if I said to you, right now, the UFO is still in my backyard, who here could be bothered making the 1 hour drive to the western suburbs to check it out? Whoa, like no one person. You could not be bothered checking out the evidence. And if you did come, you'd see it, you'd touch it there. Nah. This is a hoax. There is another explanation. You explain away the evidence that doesn't fit your belief. So out of these three, the one that's most powerful for determining belief is community. Community determines how we interpret our experiences. Community determines how we interpret our facts, evidence, and data. Community determines what we think, what we believe, and what we do. So when we were expecting our second child, we had to work out what to name him. Every parent plays this game. We don't want to name our kid a name so common like Peter, John, or David, because that's boring. But we don't We don't want a name so weird like Matthew with 3 T's and a silent Q, because that's just... Every parent's thinking, we want that name that's just right. Not too common, not too weird, but a name where everyone goes, whoa, what a name. How amazing are the parents? So we went with the name Cooper. And that year, Cooper was a top 10 name in New South Wales. We were just doing what everyone around us was doing without knowing it. Now, in this room full of Bible-believing, God-fearing, church-attending Christians, who here believes that the government should pay for health and education? There should be a safety net. Whoa, yeah, majority believe. Who here believes, in this room full of Bible-believing, God-fearing, church-attending Christians, who thinks it should be compulsory for motorcyclists to wear a helmet? All right, majority. Who here believes that we have a God-given right to pack heat? Like, as you came in here, you should be able to carry a concealed rifle. Like, you should be able to have a firearm. It's a God-given right. Well, minority. And then even if you did believe, you think, well, I'm not telling you. That's the whole point of a concealed weapon, right? Now, I want you to imagine now we're in Texas, USA, this same room of Bible-believing, church-attending, God-fearing Christians. If I said, who here believes the government should pay for health and education? No one. Because, why should my money pay for someone else's health and education? I work for it. They didn't. No one would believe that motorcyclists should have to wear helmets. It's their head. They should be able to do whatever they want with their head. And at least if they go to hospital, I'm not paying for their bills, right? And everyone here would have thought we had a God-given right to bear arms. So it's community that determines what you believe. I want you to imagine, as I tell you the UFO story, right now I'm unbelievable because I'm the one and only bozo in this whole room who believes the story. But imagine that as I'm telling the story, this half the room goes, oh my goodness, me too. We too had a UFO come in our backyard last night. We too went to Jupiter. I thought that was you I saw. I just didn't want to wave, just in case. Now, this half of the room, how are you feeling? You're thinking, this is believable because half the people I know and trust also believe the story. Imagine if, when I tell the story, the whole room says, me too. We too went to Jupiter last night. And you're the one bozo who doesn't believe it. Now it's way more believable because everyone in your community believes this story. That's why the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 15 says, I saw Jesus risen from the dead. Oh, wait, not just me, but the other 12 apostles also saw Jesus risen from the dead. Oh, not just them, but 500 people that you know, love, and trust also saw Jesus risen from the dead. Now it's more believable. We're not talking about the truth status of the claim. Jesus rose from the dead, whether you believe it or not. But it's more believable if more people in your community also believe the story. So why am I saying this? Because typically after a night like this, we get fired up. We say, okay, this is it. I will tell my friends about Jesus. So we sign up for a football team. We sign up for a cooking club. We sign up for a reading club. And we're going to tell them about Jesus, which is brave, noble, and true. But it's unbelievable because we're the one bozo in the room who believes in the Jesus story. So it stays unbelievable. So what we need to do as Christians is merge our universes of friends. Because typically as Christians, we have two separate universes of friends. We have our Christian universe. So when they have a barbecue, we go with them. We have our non-Christian universe. When they go to the movies, we go with them. But we keep them separate. So what we need to do is merge our universes of friends so that when our Christians go to the movies, we invite our non-believing friends. When our non-believing friends have a barbecue, we invite our believing friends and bit by bit merge our universes of friends. So we're not the only believer in their community and it becomes more believable. So what I'm asking for here is a lifestyle change. Evangelism is a lifestyle change. It's a bit like fitness and health. Every year we make the same promise. This year for sure, I'm going to get fit. And so at New Year's Eve, we sign up for the gym. We get up at 5 in the morning. We go for a run and it lasts 1 week. because it's unsustainable. It's one extra event that we try to shoehorn into our busy lifestyle, when to get fit and healthy, our lifestyle has to become fit and healthy. It's not an event or activity, it's our lifestyle. Evangelism is the same. It's not one extra activity we fit into our lifestyle. Our lifestyle becomes evangelistic. It's one where we deliberately merge our universes of friends and get our friends to become friends with their friends. My wife and I are right now blessed in this moment where we have many universes of non-Christian friends. But my wife and I have also noticed, you know what? Most of them have only moved in the area in the last 3 to 5 years, because it takes 3 to 5 years to form a new network of friends. So we found it's really easy to be their friend, to be Jesus to them. Because right now, loneliness is a new epidemic in Australia. 60 to 80% of Australians report that they're lonely, and loneliness is as likely to kill you as smoking half a pack of cigarettes a day. So just by being someone's friend, we can add 5 years to their life, and they're happier. So even before we tell them about Jesus, we're a means of God's goodness to them just by being their friend. So my wife and I also try to make our non-Christian friends. And you know, this used to happen to me all the time when I was single. You turn up to a party and you think, oh, it's happened again. There's a married couple, there's a married couple, there's a single lady all by herself, and look, they put me right next to her. How did I not see this coming? So my wife and I think, well, we can make our non-believing friends with our believing friends, not romantically, but socially. We think, hey, this group of friends will get on really well with this group of friends. Let's have a barbecue and introduce them to each other. When I worked as a junior doctor, I stayed in hospital accommodation. So I stayed with 3 other young doctors my age who were non-believers. But because they were living in my apartment, every time my church friends came over and we went out, we invited my non-believing flatmates along. And every time my non-believing flatmates went somewhere, I'd invite my church friends along, and bit by bit we merged our universes. And after 2 years, they started coming to church with us. And after 2 years, all 3 gave their lives to Jesus. Because it takes 2 years to form a new network of friends, but they had fallen into a community of believers. So Jesus was more believable to them. True and believable. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2. We need to go to their things. Go to their things and they will come to our things. I'm often invited to speak at evangelistic events where I give the evangelistic talk. And what I notice is most believers have not been able to invite a non-believing friend. And I get that, that's fine. It's not easy to invite a non-believing friend to an evangelistic event. But I have a friend called Andrew. He organises these events. And every time I go there, Andrew is surrounded by 5 non-believing friends. They're always happy to be there. And I think, what is going on? So I say to Andrew's wife, Jackie, hey, every time I speak at one of these events, Andrew turns up with non-believing friends, different ones every time, and they're happy to be here. What is going on? And Jackie says, oh, it's easy. It's because we're always going to their things. They're happy to come to one of our things. We would be hanging out together normally anyway on a Friday night. This is just one of many other things we would be doing together anyway. So think about it. Normally, your church will hold an evangelistic event, like a men's breakfast or something. And you think, oh, okay, how am I going to do this? So, okay, big breaths, be brave. You can do it. And you try to approach your non-believing work friends. Oh, yeah, this is it. I'm going to invite them to the men's breakfast. And your friends at work are thinking the same thing. Oh, no, here he comes. You know what he's going to do. He's going to invite us to one of these breakfast things. See, when do men do breakfast together anyway? And now this is a church thing and it's an evangelistic thing, but if you're always going to their things, they will be happy to come to your things. It will be one of many things you would be doing together anyway. So as you've heard, I've got 3 boys. And so a few years ago, we entered that weekend universe of sport. And at first I thought this would be amazing because it's just childcare in disguise. You just dump your kids on them. They take your kids for 1 or 2 hours. You read the newspaper, have a coffee, and you get your kids back after 1 or 2 hours. But no! It's a vortex. They suck you in. They want all of you. They want your soul. They want you on a barbecue roster. They want you on an umpire roster. They want you on a manager's roster. So I said to a friend, Russell, at work at City Bible Forum, I said, because he had just navigated this whole universe. I said, what do I do? He goes, don't fight it. It's a rip. Just let it take you. Because if you sign up for their rosters, if you go to their things, you earn social capital and they will come to your things. So I repented. I've signed my wife up for the barbecue roster, the umpire roster, the running the water roster. At my street, on my street, most of the people there are cultural Catholics. So they only go once or twice a year. And it was Christmas Eve on our street, everyone's out, and I said, well, what's happening? They said, well, we're going to the midnight Christmas Mass. And I said, what, can I come along? And they said, sure. So I went along with them, and on the way back, we were all carpooling. They said to me, so what do you do for Christmas? I said, funny you should ask. I'm the guy that gives the Christmas talk at the Chinese church. Would you like to come? And so for the next 2 years, they said yes, and they came. Just think, it's 9 a.m., it's a Chinese church, but they came. Because I'd gone to one of their things, they were happy to come to one of my things. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3. You're still thinking, but I still haven't told them about Jesus. Well, tip number 3 is coffee, dinner, gospel. You're saying, but I still haven't told them about Jesus. Relax. It's like coming home and you see a mountain of dirty dishes in the sink and you think, oh, it's too big, it's too complex, it's too overwhelming. And my wife says, relax. Break it down into bite-sized, concrete, achievable steps. Here, begin with a fork. And then here's a cup. And before you know it, boom, the dishes are done. And you think, I still haven't told them about Jesus. It's too big. It's too overwhelming. It's too complex. Relax. Break it down into concrete, bite-sized, achievable steps. And those steps are coffee. How can I invite my friend to a coffee? Because coffee is a safe invite. It's just 10 or 20 minutes. It's public space. And the conversation would be about just the weather, the weekend, and the sport. You say, whoa, how blue is the sky? Yep, how blue is the sky? After you've done coffee a few times, now try to invite them to a meal, lunch or dinner. Bigger invitation because now it's private space, 1 or 2 hours, but the conversation changes because you've moved into private space. My chaplain friends explained to me that there are 3 layers to a conversation. Just like there are layers to an onion, there are layers to conversations. On the outside, we talk about interests, the weather, the weekend, and the sport. Because it's safe. You're not going to argue here. When you ask someone what they did on the weekend and they say, we had a picnic, you don't say, no, you didn't. When you say, hey, how blue is the sky? They don't go, no, it's not. No, it's safe conversation, the weather, the weekend, and the sport. And then the next layer is values. What is good? What is beautiful? You know, do you like chocolate or vanilla? Do you like James Bond? Do you like romantic comedy? Do you like AFL? Do you like rugby? And then in the center layer, we have worldviews. What is real? Is there a God? Do you pray? Is there life after death? And so what happens is when you do coffee, usually you have interest-type conversations because it's public. But when you do meals, you have private type conversations, and the conversation soon changes to values and worldviews, and sooner or later, if you're good conversationalists, gospel opportunities will come up. My chaplain friends say what happens is you begin in interest, the weather, the weekend, the sport. And if you show you're a good listener, that you're safe to be vulnerable with, and that you understand, they will drop a hint that they want to take the conversation to the next level. They drop the hint once, and if you miss it later, they drop it a second time. And if you miss it, they drop it a third time. And if you miss it then they come back and go, whoa, how blue was the sky? Yep, how blue was the sky? So I went to a dinner party once, and the guy hosting said to me, my mother died earlier this year. I missed it. Later said, my mother died earlier this year. I missed it. Later said, my mother died earlier this year. And again, I missed it. My wife in the car on the way home said, do you think you want to talk about his mother dying earlier this year? All I had to do was say, tell me more. And that would have given us permission to come into the next layer and the next layer. What do you think it all means? My chaplain friends also say we can invite our way in by asking questions. So when we ask them, what did you do on the weekend? And they say, I played basketball. That's an interesting conversation. Then we ask them, what do you like about basketball? They say, well, I like staying healthy. It keeps me healthy. Then we say, well, what do you like about health? And they might say, well, you only live once, so you got to look after your body. That's a worldview comment. So we're actually working our way through the layers of conversation, and we're moving from public space to private space, because these are private space conversations that we don't do in public space. What we're really saying here is we need to learn the art of hospitality. Hospitality is everywhere in the Bible. Hospitality in the Bible is like roof racks to Asians. Growing up as an Asian, I never noticed roof racks. That's because Asian parents don't need roof racks, because they don't surf and they don't go camping. The whole reason they make you study hard and get a university degree is so you don't have to sleep on the ground when you go on holidays. But now I've grown up, I need roof racks, and I had to buy roof racks, and suddenly I realized they are everywhere. They're round ones, square ones, black ones, silver ones. How did I not see this? Because I wasn't looking for them. But now you're looking for them. They are everywhere. It's like hospitality in the Bible. We don't notice hospitality in the Bible, especially because I went to Bible college. We concentrate on the word gifts there, preaching, teaching, evangelism. But now look for hospitality. It's everywhere in the Bible. And hospitality gives the space and the permission for the word gifts, preaching, teaching, and evangelism to occur. Most of the times when Jesus is talking about Jesus, he's actually doing it in the context of food and drink. So we need to look for creative ways to do hospitality. Now that we're back in the workspaces, we can say, hey, at 10 o'clock, we go, who wants to do a coffee? And everyone goes, no, I don't want to do a coffee. I'm going to smash through coffee. I want to get my work done and go home early. And you go, no, coffee orders on me. I'll do the coffee run. And as you do the coffee run, you come back and you say, on me, because that's hospitality. It costs you time and money. And then, as you give them the coffee, you say, how was your weekend? And they have to answer you because you pay for their coffee. Later, you can say, hey, who wants to do lunch? And everyone goes, no, I don't want to do lunch. I want to smash through lunch. I want to go home early. No, I'll do the lunch run. Well, what do you want? I want a burrito. Okay, you give them the burrito. No, on me. And then you simply say, tell me more. So my wife and I right now, we're in several universes of non-Christian friends. We had the after-school swimming lesson universe of friends. We have the weekend sports universe of friends. And we have the church playgroup universe of friends. The after-school swimming lesson universe of friends right now, not very fruitful because it's loud, it's public, and everyone just leaves straight after the lesson. Okay. The weekend universe of friends, again, not very productive because it's loud, it's public, and you're only talking about the weather, the weekend, and the sport. But we notice if we can just get them back to our house, it's been more productive. But the most fruitful one has been the playgroup universe of friends, because it begins with coffee. The kids play in that corner, the grown-ups over here, doing coffee. But then when it's all over too quickly, my wife says, hey, come back to our place for lunch. And now they're in private space. And then my wife say, hey, let's do another coffee. And when I come home from work at 4 o'clock, they're still there. We say, well, let's do dinner. And bit by bit, we're moving conversations from here to here to here. I also live on a street where all the men in summertime have to water the lawn by hand. And the wives will say, hey, we've got a sprinkler. No, got to be done by hand. Don't want to waste any water. And that's because it gets us out of the house at 4 p.m., which is, you don't want to be in the house at 4 p.m. So we're all out the front watering our lawns, and I wish I thought of this, but one of the guys, 3 houses down, sees all of us out the front watering the lawn. He goes inside, comes out with a 6-pack of beer. And so now we're all drinking beer, right, and while watering the lawn. Wives come out. What is going on? Oh! So all the wives run back inside, grab some wine and cheese. So now we're all out the front doing wine, cheese and beer. And then the kids come out. What is going on? We're hungry. So we say, okay, let's just get a takeaway pizza, come back to our house and let's do the pizza. So what we've done is we've moved everything from front yard to backyard. We began with beer and wine and cheese to a takeaway pizza, and we're moving the conversations from here to here to here. So that's the third tip. Coffee, dinner, gospel. Look for creative ways to do hospitality, because when you do hospitality, it's actually not about the food. It's about giving us space and permission to talk. Tip number 4. We have to listen. You're still saying, but I haven't told them about Jesus yet. Relax. We need to learn to listen. This often happens to me when I go to a party. You know, the music's loud, doo, 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 and you're trying to make polite conversation. What do you do for work? And they go, I'm an engineer. And they go, well, what do you do for work? And I have to say, I'm in full-time Christian ministry. I tell people about Jesus from the Bible. The music stops. And it becomes a game of dare and chicken. And one of us cracks first. And we go, how blue was the sky on the weekend? And we go, whew. How blue was the sky on the weekend? So you can see what's happened. We began out here in the interest layer. What do you do for work? I'm an engineer. It's safe because I'm not going to say, no, you're not. But then suddenly in the next question, boom, 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 we're hearing worldviews way before we're ready. And so what I've learned to do is now that we're here, I give us permission to stay in this layer. And I just say simply, do you have a faith? And other friends of mine who are way better at this, they've got better questions. Their ones might be, what religion did your parents raise you with? That's a nice safe one because it's describing. They're not prescribing a faith on you. And I've even heard a better one, and whatever they answer, they say, well, you ask them, what was church like for you growing up? But let's say I ask them, well, do you have a faith? And they say, I'm a Buddhist. I simply go, wow. Tell me more. I see them for who they are, someone in the image of God, the most important person in the universe that God has brought in front of me right now, and I'm going to find out why this person will be the most interesting, important person I can talk to right now. I say, do you have a faith? And they say, I'm a Muslim. I go, wow, tell me more. If they say, I'm an atheist, I go, wow, tell me more. And when they talk, I simply listen. My counselor friends taught me this. There are 3 types of listening. There's the first one where you're listening, just waiting for your turn to talk. So that's not listening. The second one is where you listen, waiting for your turn to tell them why they're wrong. Okay, not listening. The third one is where you genuinely listen. My counselor friends say they have a technique where when the other person stops talking, you just grab your cup and take a sip of your water and show, buddy, I'm not doing any talking. You have to keep going. And I thought, whoa, I remember when I was seeing a counsellor. That's what she did to me all the time. And I knew what she was doing. A little voice in my head is saying, stop talking. You're giving her way too much information. Now she knows you're crazy. But every time she did that, I would just keep talking. So here we're trying to listen to understand. And the way we do this is when we listen, we hear what they say, we understand what they say, and we feel the emotion behind what they say. Now, guys, this is everything you learned in pre-marital counselling. Do you remember? Conflict resolution. So when you come home and your wife says, you're not doing the dishes, all you have to do is say, oh, from what I hear you saying, I'm not doing the dishes. Then you say, oh, I understand. And here you've got to summarize her words into your words to show you're not just parroting her words back at her, and you're performing some sort of high analytical thought. So here you identify the issue. You say, oh, I understand I'm not doing my share of the housework. And then you say, that must make you feel blank. And you just got to guess an emotion. But it's always going to be anger, right? That must make you feel so angry. And my wife heard me giving this advice to my guy friends, and she said, oh, if I ever catch you doing that to me. And I said, oh, from what I hear you saying. So I remember one time I caught a plane. I was flying from Sydney to Adelaide, and before I could get the headphones in, which is the international symbol for do not talk to me, the guy next to me, he starts talking to me. He says, hey, why are you flying to Adelaide? Is it for work or play? I said, work. And he says, what do you do for work? And I thought, well, from here, this is launch sequence now. It only goes in one direction. I say, well, I'm in full-time Christian ministry. I tell people about Jesus from the Bible. Silence. And I think, I'll be a hypocrite if I don't do this. I say, do you have a faith? And he said, well, when I was a teenager in South Africa, I checked out Christianity. And that's when I found out it was a front for hate crimes against gay people. And I went, wow, tell me more. And then I got him talking and talking, and then you know, just keep talking. Buddy, I'm not talking, you keep going. And finally, after maybe 40 minutes, he stopped, he paused, and then I said, well, would you like me to respond? And he went, yes. Well, here's the thing. If I asked you what you did for the weekend, and I let you go for 1 minute, convention is you should ask me what I did for the weekend, and you should give me 1 minute. But if I let you go for 10 minutes, come on, you should let me have 10 minutes as well. And because I let this guy monologue for 40 minutes, he let me monologue for 40 minutes as well. And I was able to say, hey, from what I hear you saying your issues against Christianity are, it's homophobic, it's anti-science, all religions are the same anyway. I understand for you this must be a justice issue, so you must feel really angry at Christians when you see them opposing same-sex marriage. Have I heard you correctly? And he said, yes. Would you like me to respond? He said, yes. And so I was able to monologue for about 40 minutes until the plane landed. He said, thank you so much. That was the best conversation I've ever had. You made that plane ride go so quickly. And I thought, whoa, not for me, it did not. And number 5, now that you've listened and you've earned a right to talk, we can simply, maybe I'm going to go with this one. Tell them a better story. Tell them a better story about Jesus. Tell them a better story about the Bible. Maybe I'll save this for the next time in case you guys have me back. But just, my wife and I now, we decided, you know what, let's just go straight to the Bible. So I think in the old days when you give a little track and have 4 points, 6 points on it, people were church. They know what we believe, and these points can summarize what they know we believe. But I think they're so raw now. They're such a blank slate. We really have to drip feed them bits of the Bible if we can. So with City Bible Forum, I'm not saying this is what you should use, but we've been using a resource called Word 1-to-1, which is simply the book of John, in multiple small books. So book 1, I think has chapters 1. Book 2 might have chapters 2 and 3. And it's the book of John, but in contemporary font. It looks contemporary. Because, we forget how scary the Bible is. For the non-believer, the only time they see a Bible, a leather-bound Bible, is in a vampire movie. And then so when they see a Bible, it's scary, it's got thin pages, little writing. So this is the Bible, but not in scary writing. It's contemporary, it's easy to use. And my wife and I, about 2 years ago, she was really frustrated. She says, we have all these friends, but we haven't told them about Jesus yet. So I said, well, why don't you just ask them, would you like to read the Bible with me? And Word 1-to-1 says 20% of your friends will say yes, and the others who don't say yes, A no answer is not a never answer. It just means not right now. And maybe one day, 1 year from now, 18 years from now, they may come back and say, you know what, I do want to take you up on that offer to read the Bible. So one lady, she's a cultural Catholic. She's asked my wife to be the godparent to one of her children. So I said to my wife, what? She can't ask you to be a godparent and without wanting to know what you believe. Surely she'll be open to you reading the Bible with her. So my wife asked, and sure enough now, every fortnight my wife has been reading the Bible with her. They do the school drop-off, come back to our place, have a coffee, and they read the Bible together every fortnight. It's a date. So another school mum found out they were doing this. She definitely was not a believer, not sympathetic to the church, but she thought, hey, what are you guys doing? She wants in on this. And so she wanted to start reading the Bible with my wife. And I thought, well, that can't work because this is meant to be the word 1, 2, 1. Now this is going to be word 1, 2, 2. So fortunately, I have a friend who works for them. I rang him up. Will this work? Like my wife reads the Bible with 2 people at once? And he said, yes, of course it will work. So we gave that a go. And then another lady found out. So she's joined in. Then my wife asked a Hindu lady, say, hey, would you like to read the Bible with me? She said, well, you know, I'm a Hindu, but I haven't read my own scriptures yet, so I will read yours. So 4 mothers are now reading the Bible with me. I've had a long-term project with a neighbour. Technically he's a Muslim, but I think he's very much a cultural Muslim. So I remember one time he comes over, so we're doing coffee, dinner, and I asked him, this is the other question you ask, what's the best thing about being a Muslim? And I go, wow, tell me more. And then I was like, come on, you got... He goes, okay, what's the best thing about being a Christian? I said, we can read the Bible in our mother tongue. And we can hear God speak to us in our mother tongue. So I said, see those children's Bibles there? My kids read those Bibles every day, and they hear God speaking to them. I can read the Bible. I hear God speaking to me. Would you like to read the Bible with me? And he said, yes. So we did the whole of book 1 in one go. You're not meant to do that. You're meant to, it's meant to be 4 sessions, but we did it all in one go. And then I said, well, let's do book 2. COVID hit, so we couldn't meet because there were all those funny restrictions that you guys did not hear about in the Northern Beaches. The rest of us, we had all these funny restrictions going on. Anyway, so then COVID's lifting, and I said to him, hey, let's do this over a beer. Like I said, he's a cultural Muslim, right? He drinks his beers. And then, so we thought, well, let's go to a pub. No pubs are open yet. It's post-COVID. It's all still restricted. And he said, I know where they have beers. It was at the Canterbury Leagues Club. But then all the restaurants and bars there were closed as well. So when we went in there, the only way to get a beer was in front of the pokey machines. So then he's in front of one, I'm in front of the other. And you can actually order a beer there. There's a button you push, and they come, and then he's reading the book of John, and I'm reading the book of John with him. So the way this is designed is say, hey, this is only going to take 10 minutes. All you have to do is read to the end. When you turn a page, I'll turn a page. I'll be a page turner with you. No one's going to talk out loud. Not going to ask any questions. All the questions and answers in the book anyway, you just read them for yourself. But when you turn a page, I turn a page. And at the end, you only have to answer one question, and it's, did you enjoy it? That's all I'm going to ask you. And if you say yes, maybe we'll do it again in 2 weeks' time. So I'm going to riff a little bit. I don't know. I'm going off script now. But what we're basically doing is pivoting from event-based evangelism to what they call disciple-making evangelism. So once upon a time, evangelism was invite your friend to a church event or a Billy Graham event. And long may this continue. I am employed by City Bible Forum to be that guy that talks at your church event. This pays my bills. But now they're seeing that this is only 1% of evangelism. It's actually 99% is happening through disciple making. Event-based is where a professional trained speaker monologues for 20 minutes to your friend. This is where normal, everyday Christians who have not been to Bible college, who are not professionals, who are not trained, have random, unplanned, organic conversations with their friends. And they're now showing that it's always been this way anyway, because at the Billy Graham Crusade in the UK, for someone to hear a 20-minute talk, pray the prayer and come down the front, they worked out this person had 32 prior gospel conversations with a friend before they heard Billy Graham and they came down the front. So what we're trying to do is be one of those 32 conversations that our friends will have. And so it's organic, it's a lifestyle change. I'll give you another story. There's a friend, a neighbour who moved in 10 years ago, just across the street from me. He's Anglo from New Zealand. I said, hey, would you like to come to my church? She said, no, my family and I, we're not religious, we're not that. Okay, fair enough. But we did hospitality. My wife and I would do double dates. So my wife and I would go out with his wife and him. We had some guys' nights out. So another guy from my street, he's a Christian as well. So we do the whole merge of universes thing. So 10 years later, just this year, I invited him again to a church. This time he said yes. He came. During the meet and greet, someone asked him, is this your first time at church? And he said, yep, my first and my last. But at least we got him in. So what you're seeing, it's nibble, nibble, nibble. It's baby steps now. So at my church, we have this thing called Feb Talks. And it's a play on TED Talks. But it's designed, this is the month you can invite your non-believing friends, and I will be the guy giving the 20-minute Bible talk. And we've been doing this for 12 years straight. But we noticed for the last few years, every time I speak at this Feb Talks event, every Sunday in February, there are no non-believers here. I can tell, I can recognise every face here. I'm speaking to believers here. No one's been able to bring a non-believing friend. So last year, in August, at my church, I gave exactly the same talk I gave here tonight. And I said, we need to merge our universes of friends, matchmake our non-believing friends with our believing friends. We need to go to their things. They will come to our things. We need to practice creative ways of doing hospitality, coffee, dinner, gospel. Listen, so you earn social capital. We show we're safe to be vulnerable and open with. And then invite them to, there's a family service, where it's just, puppets, it's 60 minutes of things where kids will be engaged, but we know that parents are listening in and grown-ups are hearing. And then we say, at the family service, hey, if you like this, why don't you come, so this is around November, why don't you come to the Carols event on the lawn? And then at Carols we said, hey, if you like this, why don't you come to the Christmas service? And so at Christmas they come, I speak, we say, hey, if you like this, Sam's coming back again in February to give 4 talks. And so this year, whereas normally you would have 180 people, we had 220 every Sunday. Because it doesn't begin here. You can't say, hey, okay, let's invite a friend along to the church talk. No, it begins up here. Merge our universes, go to their things, they'll come to our things, and practice creative ways of doing hospitality. So it's a lifestyle change. It's not an extra thing we add on to our schedule. So I'm going to end by saying just 1 or 2 things. Number 1, if you're trying to take notes, and you thought, boy, he spoke really quickly, relax. There's his book called How to Talk About Jesus Without Becoming That Guy. Here I share 9 tips. Tonight I got through 5 tips, and I only got through half of each of those tips. There's way more in this book. And so you thought, boy, that was really good, but I couldn't write it all down. Relax, there's a book called How to Talk About Jesus Without Becoming That Guy. I wrote it. It got Outreach Magazine's Book of the Year in the USA about 3 years ago. I'm not selling it. They're not selling it here, but just bear this in mind if you want to take this up further. You just look in your favourite bookstore for this one. So that's chase up How to Talk About Jesus. There's a book. Secondly, I'm with City Bible Forum, and we have just started a program called the EVQ School of Evangelism. Why EVQ? Well, there's IQ, there's EQ, well, there's EVQ. Can you read the room when it comes to evangelism? Not just what to say, but how to say it and when to say it. So come to me, I can give you more details. But right now, if you sign up for this, you can choose three levels to do it at. You can either do it as what we call the everyday Christian. And I think that it could be 20 or 50 bucks, I don't know, but there'll be a lot of online resources you can access. So it's information. But you might be saying, come on, I've had enough information. I've read books about evangelism. I've come to a seminar on evangelism. Information doesn't lead to transformation. I need that little nudge thing that will get me telling my friends about Jesus. So we have a program called The Keen Evangelist. And the secret sauce to this is you'll have a mentor, a personal mentor that you meet with once a month. Say, hey, you talk about, your friend John at work, and you're going to try to read the Bible with him. How's that going? So it's like having a personal trainer, but for evangelism. And so that's been going really well. We trialled it last year. We've got a full program this year. But the third one, I'm also really excited. This is the public evangelist. This is where you decide, you know what? This is personal evangelism, where I tell friends and family about Jesus, but I also want to be the guy that gives the talk at the church carols night. Because here's the thing. Imagine if you invite your friend, your non-believing friend, to a church event, and up front is John Lennox or John Dixon. You go, whoa, I'm so glad they're the guy, that's the person up front giving the talk to my friend. But here's the problem with John Lennox and John Dixon, and I've got that permission to say this. They're both getting really old. So they're not going to be around forever. So we have to raise up a new generation of people that we're so glad that, boy, I'm glad I brought my friend to hear this person talk. So we got that program going this year as well. Anyway, so that's enough from me. So if you want to know more about the EVQ School of Evangelism, which I'm a mentor in and a trainer, talk to me afterwards. And also check out my book, How to Talk About Jesus. It'll be in Koorong, Wandering Bookseller, Amazon. Cool. We'll do a question and answer time, hey?
Yeah. It's not enough from you yet, because do we have question and answer? So, do people have any questions that they would like to ask Sam while he's here? Jake, just speak loud.
Thanks, Sam. That's great. Got any advice for those of us who have long-standing relationships with non-Christian friends where it's probably become tough to plough new ground or re-plough old ground, where boundaries, unspoken boundaries about things you just don't go there, stuff that's gone badly, having to force new ground in those familiar spaces?
All right. Yes, so many points of entry. So several things I can say. So, for the Greeks, they all said there are three components to our message. There's logos, ethos, pathos. Logos is what we say. Ethos is the way we live. Pathos is the way, the emotions, the way we make them feel, the heart, the imagination. And so often with these friends, they've heard what we've had to say many times. So you almost feel like, well, there's no more logos I can give them. But maybe there's ethos, the way I live, and also the passions, the way I can help them illuminate their imaginations. So something like that. And you see that pattern in the Bible. In the New Testament, often you get believers married to non-believers. And they say, well, I've told this person over and over and over again, they're still not believing. And the New Testament starts saying, well, there's only so much you can say, but the way you live is now how you're going to win them over. So we can think about that. Also, we all know we've got to pray. And maybe I should have begun with saying, obviously, prayer was presumed. So Tim Keller begins his talks on evangelism by saying, Elijah built the altar where he got the stones, but only God could send the fire. Elijah couldn't send the fire, but Elijah still had to build the altar. And same with us, like God is the one who opens hearts, so we pray for that. But we still have to do our bit. We have to build our altar. So we can pray for our friend, but more than just pray for our friend, pray that God will bring more believers into our friend's life, so we won't be the only believer in their life. The other problem that our friends are having is, I love this grid, and missionaries used to teach this grid, and it was all about the head. How much head knowledge does someone need before they become a Christian? So let's say that's a sweet spot there. Down here, they're uninformed. They don't know the gospel. Here, they're informed. And bit by bit, with more information in the gospel, boom, they become a Christian, and now they become mature as Christians. But now they realise that's too simple, because there's another thing happening here, and it's a heart. Is a heart closed, or is it open? And so, bit by bit, their journey will have to be something like this. And right now, what we notice is a lot of... Oh, so much I can say. But, you know, if you go to any university campus, first thing you notice is there are Asians everywhere. There are more Asians here than Asia. What is going on? But then you go into a university campus Christian group and it's only Asians. You'd be the only white person in there. What is going on? This is what's going on. I think the people who come in from Asia, their hearts are already open. They're curious. So they just need information. So this is their journey. But for a lot of our friends, their hearts are closed and they think they're informed, but they're actually misinformed. And so that's why it's the harder job to get churched Anglo people to hear the gospel, because they think they've heard, they're misinformed. So we really have to re-inform them, pray that God will open their hearts and eyes to the gospel, and knowing that we've got to somehow open their hearts as well as just inform them. The other thing that's really helpful right now just last month, a book came out called The Great De-Churching. So look at the phenomenon where once upon a time, so many people went to church and suddenly, boom, so little people go to church now. So people were de-churched. People who are church now don't go to church. What is going on? This came out just last month. Authors are Jim Davis, Michael Graham, Ryan Burge. And it's really helpful because it said, well, this group, there are actually two sorts of people who've stopped going to church. There's what's called the de-churched casualties. And so they've been hurt by the church. Something's happened. Conflict, falling out, abuse, bullying, scandal, something's happened. And they've been a casualty. So they have to be loved back into the church. Like someone has to say sorry, and there has to be reconciliation before they can come back. But then the other category is what they call the casually de-churched. You know, they went to Sunday school, they went to youth group, they probably in a university Christian group, college group, and bit by bit life got busy and they stopped going to church, bit by bit. So it happened in small steps, but those small steps added up. And so these people still believe, and they just need someone to re-invite them. Say, hey, come on, it's been a while. Why don't you think it's time to come back? And what we're seeing here, there are actually three components. There's belonging, behaviour, belief. And it used to be we thought it was belief, belonging, behaviour. Thought it was that order. You know, Billy Graham will preach you the message. You believe, you come down the front. So you believe, they plug you into a church, you find belonging, and through the church you learn how to behave as a Christian. But now we're realising, no, it's always been belonging, behaviour, belief, always. Because remember, the non-believer came on a church bus, they had belonging. So bit by bit, what's happened is people say, I don't fit into church anymore. It's not my people. Or they change cities, they change schools, change work, and now they can't find a church where there's belonging. And when they stop belonging, they stop behaving, and soon they stop believing. But most of them, we can get them at this point. They still believe, so we just got to, hey, come on, find them a set of friends, give them belonging, give them behaviour, and give them belief. So I'll show you how this works. I played rugby till I was 38. So I played rugby in high school. I played rugby for Sydney University. I kept playing rugby when I was in America. I've had so many concussions, so many games I cannot remember. By then, my wife had to drive me to the games because I couldn't remember where I parked the car. So I eat, drink, live, bleed, die rugby But all three of my sons play AFL. Oh, how did this happen? They get you through your children. They come to your schools. They offer after-school childcare, they call it. 6 weeks in a row. It won't cost you anything. So then your kids have fun. They play AFL for 6 weeks in a row after school. Then they go, oh, did your kid enjoy that? Well, you know what? There's a club just down the block you could sign your kid up for. And, oh, here's a backpack, a free backpack, or some free tickets to games. What club does your son follow or your girl follow? You know, we'll give you a jersey. There'll be halftime entertainment. So what happens is suddenly you find belonging. Whoa, how welcome am I? And then you go to the club and now there are tickets. You got to go to the games. Your kids run on at halftime. You got to sign up for a roster. You start behaving now, and before you know it, you believe this is a better game than rugby. So churches can do the same. So just like we merge our universes of friends, we got to start thinking, how can we get our non-believers back in church spaces? You know, so they can find some sort of belonging, some sort of behaviour. So one of our most productive ones was the playgroup one. So the playgroup one, after a while we invite the parents, hey, why don't you come to church? And it's familiar. They've been in the building. It's not scary. Oh, you got some older siblings. Like the kids have older siblings. Would they like to come to the youth group? And I've got to tell you, every parent right now wants their kid coming to at least a church thing on Friday night rather than gaming till 2 a.m. on a Friday night. So they come, and bit by bit the parents start thinking, hey, you know what? You know, my kids really belong. How can I help out? So then they go on the cleaning roster. Rosters are the most evangelistic things you can get people on. So put them on an AV roster. Get them on a chair setup roster. Tim Keller used to have a music jamming roster where gifted musicians could jam in music before the church event, even though they weren't non-believers. Now they're in church spaces playing music. Oh, I was just going to say one more thing. Just can't remember. Anyway, I've lost that. That was the answer to that question. But so it's a it's no one single solution. It's multi-component.
I think we've got another question, and you got a microphone this time. Thanks, Simon. Oh, are you the one with the question, or are you one holding the microphone? Does anyone else have another question? Guy down the front. I'll just hold on, wait for the mic so the recording can hear.
Hello?
Guy.
Yes,
First
hi,
one
Sam.
here. Guy was the first one here tonight.
Yes, I'm the only guy here.
Right, okay.
I hate to think what the rest of you are. Anyway, just further on to that point, the notion of familiarity. I'll give you a case study. I've played tennis with these guys for 25 years, every Monday night. 2 of us are Christians, and the other one's anti and the other one's not. They know we're Christians. They totally know that. We ask them, tell me more, all that sort of stuff. How do you break the ice, apart from hitting them over the head with something?
Yeah. Well, there's several things I can say. So, first of all, it's great that they're friends, they're familiar, and everything's going well. And I know it's an absolute cliche, but sooner or later the wheels fall off. They have to, somewhere, somehow. So in the Genesis 3 curses, all of life is broken at 3 levels. It'll be broken at the level of work, it'll be broken at the level of health, and it'll be broken at the level of relationships. So sooner or later, the wheels have to fall off somewhere. And I remember listening to this podcast where a pastor said he would do exactly what you're doing. You know, play tennis or go to the gym with his friends, and they know come a time of crisis, they will come to you. The guard drops very, very briefly. It comes back up, but we get them just when that guard is down. I'm sharing so much stuff from other seminars, so sorry if I repeat stuff you've heard elsewhere. So I have a friend called Craig. He was a chaplain in the Australian military, and he went on the tours to Afghanistan. Bad stuff happens. He's ministering, praying, pastoring the Australian troops. But the commanding officer, atheist, doesn't want any time with his religious mumbo-jumbo stuff. Craig, I'm very happy you believe in Jesus, not for me. But one day, enough bad stuff happens The commanding officer says to Craig, come in my office, close the door, take a seat. Can you pray for me? So there'll be this moment in a crisis when the wheels fall off, they will come to us. If we've shown enough wisdom and we're a safe person, that they can be open to. So it's interesting, like, all in the Old Testament, all the people of God stood out for their wisdom. It says in Stephen's speech in Acts 7, Moses learnt wisdom from the Egyptians. Like, he stood out for his wisdom. Joseph stood out for his wisdom. Daniel and his 3 friends stood out for their wisdom. So somehow they will see wisdom in the way we live, and they'll come to us in a time of crisis. The other thing, you can gently nudge, so tell me more, how are things going, tell me more, and after a while, they will volunteer the next bit. So as a doctor, we make fun of our psychiatry friends. We say it's not very hard to be a psychiatrist. You only have to learn 2 questions. How are things going? How are things really going? And I know from work, I ask the nurses, how are the kids? How's the weekend? How are the kids? How's the weekend? How are the kids? It's always great. And one day, one of the nurses said, you know what? Kids aren't doing well. They're getting bullied at school. They got learning difficulties. And this way, you hear them, you understand, and you speak their fears back at them in words that show you've understood. I said, you're just afraid your kids are going to fall behind. She said, yes, that's it. And then what I do is, hey, my wife, my kids, we pray for our friends every night. Can we pray for you tonight? I don't say I pray for you because they're just creepy. So I say my wife, my kids. And at night I text and say, hey, we prayed for you tonight. And so I nibble away at that. Next bit then I start say, hey, if it's all right, here's a verse. Here's a verse from the Bible. So then I pray, there's a verse. And then I check in on them, say, how are things going? They say, things are going a bit better. I say, it's a miracle. I use the word miracle, because everyone believes in miracles. But now I've introduced the idea of God, the supernatural. So I'll give you an example. I play football with this guy. I'm playing AFL these days, Masters AFL. I'm hopeless. I can only tackle. I can't pass, I can't kick, but I can tackle. So I'm just waiting till you get the ball, and I'm going to hit you so hard. But so one guy playing, he says, I've been trying to give up smoking. I just can't give up smoking. So I said to him, hey, if it's all right for you, I'm going to pray for you every day that God cures you from smoking. He says, you're on. So anyway, so every day I text him, hey, just pray for you. And I put it in the positive. Hey, pray that God will shine his peace on you today. Something positive, because they're not used to that sort of language about God. I hope you enjoy God's presence. I hope God shines his face on you today. And so I did that for about 4 weeks. And then next bit, I started putting a Bible verse. I say, hey, here's a verse from the Bible. I read my Bible every day. Here's a verse you're going to love. And sometimes he's out in the countryside working. I remember just this week, there's one about, may your cattle and donkeys roam free. And so I gave him that one. and then there was a funny one where somehow God was smoking the mountains. I say, here's something about smoking, and every day I send him a verse. And he's always going, this is a great verse. I say, hey, so how familiar are you with the Bible? He goes, well, I read it when I was a kid. So now I'm going to say, hey, would you like to read the Bible with me? And just last week I was catching a plane. He said, my turn. He texted me a Bible verse. And I said, that is the perfect verse. He goes, I had to Google it. That's what he said. But so I think bit by bit, you start showing them, hey, I'm going to pray for you. And then bit by bit you say, hey, here's a verse. And then bit by bit you say, hey, would you like to read more? So it's little baby steps.
Another question? Still got a bit of time. Yeah, Jess.
Over the back. There we go.
Hi, Sam. Would love your thoughts on when you're inviting someone to an event and they've, said no, and you're trying to go to their things, like you were saying. Do you think there's a risk of people feeling like you're only in it to convert them, that you have some hidden agenda? Because I feel like we live in a pretty skeptical society. Yeah, what's your sort of thoughts around that and how we can make sure that we are having genuine friendships?
Yeah, so I think it begins as a genuine friendship, and trying to tell them about Jesus is the natural outflow of having them as a genuine friend. Our heart aches for them. So we don't go in there, I'm going to tell this person about Jesus. We go in there, I'm going to be this person's friend, and the natural outflow will be to want to tell them about Jesus. And I think of it this way. There's that verse in the Bible where Jesus says, God sends rain, which I used to think was a bad thing, but now I realise, no, it's a blessing. God sends a blessing. As a little kid, rain stops play, you got to be inside. But now I realise, God sends rain on the believers and the non-believers. So somehow it's what theologians call common grace. Everyone gets to enjoy it. And God's not sending rain there, I hope they believe. No, He's going to give it to you whether you believe in Him or not. And I think we're just going to be Jesus. We're just going to be a blessing to our friend. And by being their friend, I'm going to add 5 years to their life, and they're going to be happier. And in the natural outflowing, hopefully I also get to tell them about Jesus. But even if they don't believe, even if I don't get to tell them about Jesus, I was a means of common grace, of God's common grace to them by being their friend.
Let's go one more. Last one. Right at the back. Is that Phil?
It's an AFL question, isn't it?
No, it's not an AFL. Slightly left field question. To listen to you, maybe a lot of other people are in the room feel the same way, that it's your energy. Does your faith give you the energy you seem to possess, or does your fitness give you the faith, give you the energy to do what you do?
All right.
For those of us who feel like we would love to have your energy, where do you get it from?
I think personality type. So believe it or not, I'm what they call a loud introvert. I'm loud right now, but I will pay for it. So tonight I'll be in a dark corner, recovering, whereas my wife is what they call a quiet extrovert. So at a party, I want to be the first to leave. She wants to be the last to leave. And at church, I'm the guy standing on the fence. Come on. She's in there. So we've worked out, she's got to understand how I'm wired. I need to be recharged. If we're going to have a barbecue, invite friends over, she's so excited after this. Oh, we got to do that again. I go, just give me a week. So actually, I'm like who I am right now because I deliberately pace myself and charge myself for this event, and I pay for it a bit later. So I'm like most of us. Introverts find each other. I think Jesus was an introvert. There are enough clues in the Bible. He was an introvert. My favourite bit was John chapter 4, where he goes to the well, and before he meets the woman at Samaria, it says Jesus, tired as he was, just sat down. And and here's the key, he sent his disciples into the town to do the shopping. He didn't want to do the shopping. And that's me. I send my wife in. Like, I'm just going to sit in the car. You go in. And so I think Jesus was an introvert. And most of us, I think by definition, half of us in this room are low-energy introverts. And also at work, it will be inappropriate if in an operating room, me with 2 other doctors and 4 other nurses, I'm like this, it's more the gentle, what we call being the calm, non-anxious presence in that room. Like, how can I be Jesus? You notice Jesus in the New Testament just floats around as the calm, non-anxious presence. In that chapter where he gets crucified, everyone's out of control. The crowd's out of control, Pilate's out of control, disciples are out of control, they've all lost control. Jesus is the calm, non-anxious presence. And I remember one time at work, I said to a nurse, I'm the least important person in this room. I said, if any one of the nurses couldn't turn up, we have to cancel the operation. If the surgeon doesn't turn up, we've got to cancel. If the anaesthetist doesn't turn up, we've got to cancel. If I don't turn up, the operation can go ahead, and it goes better without me. The only reason I turn up so they don't find out it goes better without me. Otherwise, I'm out of a job. And she said, no, you're the most important one in the room because you're the one who keeps everyone calm. Somehow as Christians, we have a calm, non-anxious presence. Now, as Christians, we can suffer from anxiety, like we suffer from diabetes and asthma. But there's a different anxiety when you don't believe in God, when you don't believe that there's God in control of the universe, because it means we have to control everything, or we believe nothing's in control. So somehow they can smell our wisdom and they can sense our calm, non-anxious presence. So I think we can be low energy, and it's in the questions. So, they found out Jesus... He asked 200 questions, was asked 300 questions, and only directly answered a question 8 times. The rest of the time he just answered with a question, like, tell me more. Like, Jesus, by what authority do you do these things? I don't know. By what authority does John the Baptist do his things? Jesus, should we pay taxes or not? I don't know. Show me a coin. Whose head do you see on it? And that's all I do at work. I ask questions. So there's a guy at work, in January, you can't get any work done until you've asked the question, what did you do for Christmas? And then so you look at each other, okay, we have to say it, okay. I said, Danny, what did you do for Christmas? He said, we had people over, family came from out of state. And then I just pause and go, and how did that go? And he goes, you know what, it didn't go well. You give permission for people to say it didn't go well. So one time, I'm just standing in a corner. One of the wardsmen, he's in that corner. It's a Friday. I say, hey, what are you doing for the weekend? He goes, I'm going to a concert. So I just go, well, what do you like about concerts? It's release. I love the energy, and it's how I find calm. It calms my anxieties. And I just pause. I say nothing. And then he says, but my partner doesn't understand. And I said, tell me more. And then he comes over and he tells me more. I say, hey, listen, if it's okay, my wife, my kids, we pray every night. Can I pray for you tonight? So we go home, I text him, hey, pray for you. And I give him that verse in Philippians, and I cast your anxieties upon God and I'll give you that peace that passes all understanding. And I see him on Monday and he said, thank you, that prayer made me feel better. I say, it's a miracle. Would you like to know more? So I think it's not about the loud energy. I'm only doing this because there's 200 of you right now, so I have to talk as if there are 200 of you right now, but there's only one person in the room at work. It'll be just me softly asking questions. Tell me more. Why do you ask? How did that go?
So much, Sam. Can we all show him our thanks?
Thank you.
I hope you feel encouraged and spurred on and excited to be sharing Jesus with our friends. Am I right? Yeah. I know, though, how easy it is to come to tomorrow and get caught up in the normal everyday things and go, gee, I wish I could keep that enthusiasm, and it's so easy for things just to go back as they were. So can I really encourage... Sam has mentioned two things, two ways to follow up. One is the book. You can get it on Audible. I got it on Audible. I think, did you read it? Is it your voice?
No, it's they got
Someone else's
some English
voice?
dude.
English
closest. It's an American publisher. It's the closest I could get to an Australian accent.
But your lectures, I found your lectures of the other one. What's the other one called? The
Evangelism
longer one?
in a Skeptical World. Originally, it was my voice, but then they got a proper...
But there's lectures of it. There's two. There's the reading of the book, and there's also your lectures.
Probably.
So there's a whole bunch of Sam Chan stuff on Audible if you're an Audible person rather than a book person. But either get the book from Koorong, listen to it on Audible, and the EVQ stuff as well. Come and speak to Sam about that. I want to tell you two things that we're going to be doing at St. Faith's that are coming up. Hopefully, a lot of what he's talked about, you will have been coming across a bit if you're in a community group. And in the evangelism stuff we've been going through there, I've been trying to follow some of the patterns that Sam has put forward. You'll also know, hopefully, pedals. And there will be some similarities here. What does the P stand for? Praying for their salvation, right? E, what's the E? Praying for an evangelistic opportunity. Praying, God, I want to be involved in this. The D, dropping a Christian word so they know we're a Christian. A, ask. L, listen. S, share. And the last one is an upside down I. Invite. We do Discover every term. You'll notice, though, that the invitation to Discover is the last step, which means that all of the stuff that Sam's talked about and all of this happens is, 32 times, 32 conversations before they come to Discover. Now, when people come to Discover, there were three things that Sam talked about. The three key, there was community, experience, and facts. When you invite your friend to Discover, a part of the Discover is intended to tick those three boxes. They come along, they meet your friends and they meet some other non-Christians as well as some Christian friends. So they're getting to establish merging universes, getting to know community. They're hearing your stories as they get to meet you. And the last one is the facts, which is the presentations that I give. They start to hear those facts as well. So Discover is a great opportunity for that, but still there are 32 meetings or whatever and discussions that happen before that on average. And so what we want to be doing, this is sort of tying into the EVQ stuff, but on the 29th, so next Discover is Thursday night, 26th of October. On the 29th, we want to be getting people together who have a heart for evangelism and are giving it a go. I've been meeting with about 10 people every kind of 2 months or so. People like Ross and Sarah Jones, Glenn and Sandy Walsh, Sue Ross, Brett Jeffries, Simon and Penny Hunter, Max Williams. I think that's. Have I missed anyone? No, I think. All these people are evangelists. And they are regularly speaking with people about their friend, about Jesus with their friends. Brett started up a Bible study group in his street. Max has been reading the Bible with a friend. He said he nearly became a Christian. Did he become a Christian? Nearly. He's nearly there. Sandy goes to the coffee shop every couple of mornings and has a chat with people there. Always looking for conversations. There are people who are doing these sorts of things regularly, and so what we want to do is get people together to encourage one another, to keep each other accountable, to learn from one another. Perhaps you might want to go to one of the classes, come along, share what you've been learning as well. That's going to be on the 29th of October. I'm looking for anyone who has got a passion for evangelism or wants to get passionate for evangelism. Anyone who is giving this a go or wants to get the confidence to give it a go. Anyone who is having conversations with their friends or wants to. That's on the 29th, and the plan is to meet kind of roughly quarterly, and the goal is just to encourage each other. It's not about going and doing walk up and going and doing cold turkey evangelism. It's encouraging each other with the stories that are happening, with the people who are coming to know Christ, and then encouraging those with that tiny little step. What's that next step that might help you with your friend? And so that's what will be on the 29th, and that's sort of a vision to talk about more of what that will look like. So you're not committing if you come along, but come along and see what we're going to do, and that's the plan. We'll kind of meet roughly quarterly, but come along. That's the 29th. You'll hear more about that. That's it. So how about I pray?
Sure, and just before you pray, I just got to give a shout out to Reverend Lloyd Bennett in the second row here. Because he was my chaplain when I went to high school. He was my rugby coach, so I learnt the love of rugby from him. He taught me evangelism, and I still remember going to chapel services, and my parents would listen to Lloyd preach, and they would tell me afterwards, that was the gospel. Sam, did you hear the gospel? It was so clear. That's what they would tell me after a Lloyd Bennett sermon. And so he taught me the love of evangelism. He taught me the Bible, because he got me in a very detailed course, which helped me get through subsequent Bible college studies, and he taught me the love of rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I was amazed at Lloyd, at his enthusiasm and energy that he's got, and 40 years ago.
40 years ago.
And still going strong, still a chaplain as well down at Perisher. And I remember I asked him a couple of years ago, what gives you the energy? And he goes, sharing the gospel gives me energy. And I thought that's so true, actually. And so, great encouragement. How about I pray? I pray for you, Sam. I'll pray for us as well. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for tonight. Lord, we thank you for the wonderful encouragement that Sam is. And we pray that your Spirit will continue to convict our hearts, not just in the need to talk to our friends, but also in the wisdom in how to do it and to put it into action. And Lord, we pray that you will bless all our efforts, bless our friendships, and work in us so that we can see more and more people come to know you. Amen. Great, excellent. There might be some more tea if there's any leftover food. Anyway, come and chat with Sam if you want to do EVQ stuff.